Welcome back to Pyrrhia-Cast. 5 dragonets, raised in isolation, forced together by circumstance, and somehow, against all odds, they became something the prophecy never accounted for.
A family, a unit, something stronger than destiny.
Today we're talking about the dragonets as a group. Not individually, we've done that, but as a team. What makes them work together? What are their roles? And why does their bond matter more than any prophecy?
'Cause here's the thing, they weren't supposed to care about each other this much. The Talons of Peace wanted tools. Instead, they got dragons who choose each other over the mission every single time.
And that changes everything. So let's start with the obvious question, Qibli. What makes this group work?
Complementary strengths. They're all different enough that they cover each other's weaknesses, but similar enough that they understand each other.
Clay's the protector. Tsunami's the fighter. Glory's the truth-teller. Starflight's the knowledge. Sunny's the hope.
Right? And none of them could do this alone. Clay would get manipulated. Tsunami would charge into disaster. Glory would isolate herself. Starflight would freeze. Sunny would get crushed by reality.
But together, they're unstoppable.
Not unstoppable, but resilient. They survive because they balance each other.
Let's talk about their roles, because I think each of them serves a specific function in the group dynamic.
Clay is the emotional center. He's the one everyone turns to when things fall apart. Not because he has answers, but because he cares.
He's the one who says we'll figure it out, and you actually believe him.
Exactly. And Tsunami, she's the drive. The momentum. When everyone's paralyzed, she moves.
Sometimes in the wrong direction, but at least she's moving.
Which is exactly what they need. Someone who refuses to accept helplessness. Who says we're doing something about this even when there's no good option.
And Glory keeps them honest. She's the one who calls out nonsense, who refuses to pretend everything's fine when it's not.
She's been dismissed her whole life, so she doesn't trust easy answers. If something sounds too good to be true, Glory's, we can't do our face and face for the Lord, brother. What?
Starflight brings knowledge. Context. He's read every scroll, knows every precedent, understands the politics and history they're navigating.
But he second-guesses himself constantly, which is where the others come in. They give him confidence to use what he knows.
And Sunny's the reason they don't give up.
She believes in them, even when they don't believe in themselves. She looks at this disaster of a situation and says, we can fix this.
Which should be naive, but somehow it's not, because she backs it up with action.
Right. She's not passive optimism. She's stubborn hope. There's a difference.
Okay, but here's what gets me. They don't just have complementary skills. They genuinely like each other.
That's the part the Talons didn't plan for. They thought shared trauma would create soldiers. Instead, it created friendship.
Can we talk about how they were raised? Because that should have destroyed their ability to trust anyone.
Kestrel was cruel. Dune was detached. Webbs was ineffective. None of them modeled healthy relationships. None of them taught the Dragonets how to care for each other.
And yet, the Dragonets figured it out anyway. They learned to be kind in an environment that punished kindness.
Which tells you something about their characters. They chose connection despite everything telling them not to.
There's this moment early on. Clay sharing his food even though he's starving. It's such a small thing, but it sets the pattern.
Generosity and scarcity. That's the foundation of their bond. When you have nothing and you still share, that builds trust.
And it compounds. Clay shares food. Tsunami watches his back and training. Glory makes them laugh when everything's bleak. Starflight teaches them what he's learned. Sunny reminds them why they matter.
They create their own support system because the adults won't.
Let's talk about conflict within the group, because they're not always in harmony.
Oh, they fight constantly. Tsunami and Glory especially. Tsunami wants action, Glory wants truth, and those don't always align.
But they fight and then they move past it. That's what's interesting. The conflict doesn't break them.
Because the foundation is solid, they can disagree about what to do without questioning whether they are on the same side.
Tsunami can say that's a terrible idea to Glory, and Glory can fire back, and then 5 minutes later they're working together because the argument was never about loyalty.
Right. Compare that to adult dragons, where disagreement often means betrayal. The Dragonets have healthier conflict than most of the dragons trying to control them.
Which is kind of hilarious when you think about it. These 6-year-old Dragonets have better emotional intelligence than the Talons of peace leadership.
Because they had to develop it to survive. The adults had power. The Dragonets only had each other.
There's something about that dynamic, being powerless together, that creates fierce loyalty.
Shared suffering can destroy you or unite you. They chose unity.
Let's talk about how they make decisions, because this is where you really see the group dynamic at work.
It's messy. Tsunami usually pushes for immediate action. Clay tries to make sure everyone's safe first. Glory points out flaws in the plan. Starflight provides information. Sunny tries to find the option that helps the most dragons.
So it's chaos.
Productive chaos, because they're stress testing every idea from multiple angles. What looks like arguing is actually collective problem solving.
And they listen to each other. That's key. Tsunami's impulsive, but when Clay says wait, she actually considers it.
Because she trusts his judgment even when it contradicts her instincts. That's huge.
And when Glory calls something stupid, they don't dismiss her as bitter. They actually examine whether she's right.
Because she usually is. Glory's cynicism is protective. She's been burned by false promises, so when she's skeptical, it's worth paying attention.
Starflight's the one they turn to for what happened last time someone tried this.
Historical precedent. He's their institutional memory. In Sunny, when they're stuck between terrible options, Sunny finds the third path no one else saw.
So each of them contributes to the decision-making process. It's not a hierarchy. It's collaborative.
Which is wild because Tsunami absolutely wants to be in charge. But even she recognizes that dictating doesn't work with this group.
They've been dictated to their whole lives. They're allergic to it now.
Exactly. So they have to negotiate, compromise, actually listen. It makes them slower than a single leader, but more resilient.
Let's go back to something you said earlier. The Dragonets choose each other over the mission. Can you unpack that?
The prophecy says they're supposed to end the war. Choose the next Sandwind Queen. Save Pyrrhia. Huge abstract goals.
But when it comes down to it, they don't make choices based on the prophecy. They make choices based on each other.
Clay doesn't fight Fjord to advance some grand plan. He refuses to kill because that's not who he is, and his friends wouldn't want him to become someone else.
Tsunami doesn't challenge her mother to fulfill destiny. She does it because her friends are in danger, and she's furious about it.
Glory doesn't infiltrate the Nightwind Island for prophecy reasons. She does it because she needs to know the truth, and her friends support that.
The prophecy becomes almost incidental. They're not trying to be heroes. They're trying to protect each other.
And somehow that works better than any grand destiny. Because their motivation is real, immediate, personal.
You fight harder for the dragons you love than for an abstract cause.
Always. Every time.
What about the moments when the group almost breaks? Because there are points where they come close to falling apart.
When they first escape and don't know where to go. When they're captured by Scarlet and separated. When they disagree about which queen to support.
Those are pressure points. Moments where the bond is tested.
And every time, they choose to stay together. Even when it would be easier to split up. Safer to go their separate ways, they don't.
Because at this point, the group isn't just strategy, it's identity. They're not 5 separate Dragonets anymore. They're the Dragonets, the unit.
Losing the group would be losing themselves. That's how deep the bond goes.
That's actually kind of beautiful, Qibli.
It really is. And it's something the adults never understood. The Talons thought the Dragonets would fulfill the prophecy out of duty. They never considered that the Dragonets would fulfill it out of love.
Love for each other. Not for Pyrrhia, not for the tribes, not for destiny. For the 4 dragons standing beside them.
And that makes them dangerous to every system trying to control them. Because you can manipulate duty. You can weaponize fear. But love, loyalty, that's unpredictable.
You can't control dragons who care more about each other than about following orders.
Exactly. The Dragonets keep breaking the rules because the rules don't account for what they've become.
Let's talk about how they communicate, because I think that's underrated.
They've developed their own shorthand. Clay's expressions, Tsunami's tone, Glory's sarcasm, Starflight's silence, Sunny's optimism. They can read each other.
Which makes sense. They've been together constantly since hatching. They know each other better than anyone else in their lives.
When Clay goes quiet, they know he's worried. When Tsunami gets louder, she's scared and covering. When Glory's sarcasm turns sharp, she's hurt. When Starflight spirals, he needs grounding. When Sunny pushes positivity, she's trying to hold them together.
They don't just hear words. They hear what's underneath.
Emotional fluency. That's rare even among adult dragons who've known each other for years.
Here's a question. Do you think they'd be as close if they hadn't been trapped in that cave together?
No, absolutely not.
So the imprisonment created the bond.
Which is deeply messed up. The Talons' worst crime, stealing their freedom, also created their greatest strength.
They turned their prison into something meaningful, connection in captivity.
And when they finally escape, they don't run away from each other. They run together. The bond survives freedom.
That's the test, isn't it? When they're not forced to be together anymore, do they choose it?
And they do, over and over. Even when the world pulls them in different directions, they find their way back to each other.
Because the group is home, not a place, not the cave, each other.
Exactly.
Let's talk about what happens to groups like this in the real world. Because this kind of bond, it's not sustainable, is it?
You're asking if they'll grow apart, if they'll eventually go their separate ways.
I'm asking if this intensity of connection can last when they're not constantly in life or death situations together.
Probably not at this level. They'll change, develop other relationships, find individual purposes.
But the foundation stays. You don't lose this kind of bond. You build on it.
The Dragonets who survived the cave together, that's always part of who they are. Even if they're not physically together, the group shaped them.
They'll carry each other forward in decisions they make, values they hold, ways they treat other dragons.
Clay will still protect. Tsunami will still lead. Glory will still challenge. Starflight will still learn. Sunny will still hope.
Those roles were forged in the group. They become part of individual identity.
So even if the group disperses eventually, what they built together, that doesn't disappear.
It evolves, changes form, but the core remains.
And honestly, I think they'll keep finding their way back to each other. Because some bonds don't fade just because circumstances change.
They chose each other when they had no choice about being together. They'll choose each other when they do have choices. That's the difference.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
What do you think the group's biggest achievement is? Not individually, as a unit.
They survived with their capacity for kindness intact. They were raised in cruelty and they refused to become cruel.
That's huge. Most dragons in their situation would come out broken or vicious.
The Dragonets came out kind, still able to trust, still able to hope. That's not natural, given what they experienced.
They protected each other's humanity, or I guess, dragonity. They didn't let the cave make them into the monsters Kestrel said they were.
Because they had each other to remind them who they wanted to be.
When one of them started to harden, the others pulled them back. When one despaired, the others lifted them up.
They kept each other whole, in a situation designed to break them.
That's their real victory. Not ending the war, not fulfilling prophecy, staying themselves despite everything trying to change them.
And stand together despite everything trying to separate them.
You know what I keep coming back to? They're so young, 6, 7 years old when all this happens.
Children, basically, who should not have to make world-altering decisions or fight for their lives or navigate complex political situations.
But they do, because no one else will. And they do it together.
Which makes the bond even more remarkable. They're not adults with fully developed emotional regulation. They're kids figuring out how to care for each other while processing their own trauma.
And somehow they manage it. Imperfectly, messily, but genuinely.
Because they don't have the option to fail. If the group falls apart, they've got nothing. So they make it work.
Necessity creates resilience.
And in this case, it created something beautiful. 5 Dragonets who refused to abandon each other no matter what.
So let's bring this back to the beginning. What makes this group work?
Trust built in shared suffering, complementary strengths, healthy conflict, collective decision-making, love that outweighs duty.
They're different enough to balance each other and similar enough to understand each other.
They developed roles that serve the group without losing individual identity.
And they choose connection over and over, even when it's hard.
Especially when it's hard.
That's the group. That's what the Talons of Peace accidentally created when they locked 5 eggs in a cave.
Not a weapon, not a tool, a family.
And families are a lot more powerful than prophecies.
Because you can control destiny. You can't control love.
The Dragonets proved that. They took the worst situation imaginable and found each other in it.
And they held on. Through everything, they held on.
That's the story, right there. Not the war, not the prophecy, not the politics. 5 Dragonets holding on to each other when the whole world tried to pull them apart.
And succeeding against impossible odds.
They're still together, still choosing each other, still defying everyone who said they were just tools.
Because they're not tools. They're dragons with agency, feelings, connections that matter.
The group made them more than the prophecy ever could.
Exactly.
All right, that's it for this episode of Pyrrhia-Cast. The Dragonets is a group, stronger together than any prophecy planned.
If you enjoyed this, hit subscribe and drop in the comments what we should discuss next. We've got plenty more to unpack from this account.
Until next time, stay together, stay loyal, and remember, the bonds you forge matter more than the destinies you're given.
Well said, Deathbringer.
I have my moments.
Before we go, there's one more thing I want to touch on. The way the group handles individual growth.
Oh, that's interesting, because they're so bonded, but they're also separate dragons with separate needs.
Right. Clay needs to protect. Tsunami needs to lead. Glory needs to prove herself. Starflight needs to understand. Sunny needs to believe everyone can be saved.
And those needs don't always align. Sometimes protecting means not leading. Sometimes proving yourself means questioning the group.
But they make space for it. When Glory needs to go to the Rainwing Kingdom and find out who she really is, the others support that, even though it means separating.
When Tsunami needs to confront her mother, they back her up. When Starflight needs to face the Nightwings, they're there.
The group doesn't demand that everyone stay the same. It adapts, grows with them.
That's what makes it sustainable. If the group required everyone to suppress individual needs for collective harmony, it would eventually implode.
But they figured out, probably without realizing it, that individual strength makes the group stronger.
As long as the loyalty remains. That's the core. You can grow, change, pursue your own path. As long as you come back.
And they always come back.
Let's talk about leadership within the group. Because technically, no one's in charge.
Tsunami wants to be. She has the personality for it, decisive, confident, willing to take responsibility.
But the others don't actually follow her blindly. They challenge her, question her decisions.
Which drives her crazy, but it's also what keeps her from becoming another Queen Scarlet or Queen Cora.
Power without accountability corrupts. The group provides accountability.
And leadership shifts depending on the situation. In a fight, Tsunami leads. When they need strategy, Starflight steps up. When they need mediation, it's Clay. When they need truth, Glory. When they need hope, Sunny.
Situational leadership. Each dragon leads in their area of strength.
Which is incredibly sophisticated for Dragonets who were never taught leadership theory.
They learned by doing, by failing, adjusting, trying again.
The group was their training ground. Every conflict, every decision, every crisis, it taught them how to lead and how to follow.
And crucially, how to do both at the same time.
You know what's wild? The group survives everything that should destroy it. Scarlet's arena, the Nightwing Island, the war, political manipulation.
And they come out stronger, not unscathed, but stronger.
Because they process it together. When something traumatic happens, they don't each go off and deal with it alone.
They talk, fight, cry, laugh, whatever they need to do to metabolize the experience.
Shared processing. It's why they don't break under the weight of what they've experienced.
One dragon carrying all that trauma, that dragon breaks. 5 dragons sharing the load. Survivable.
And they don't just share the trauma. They share the joy, the victories, the moments of relief.
When they win together. That makes the wins sweeter and the losses more bearable.
I keep thinking about what would have happened if the Talons of Peace had actually succeeded in their original plan.
If the Dragonets had stayed in the cave, being raised as perfect tools, emerged to fulfill the prophecy exactly as planned,
They'd be hollow. Effective maybe, but hollow. No real bonds, no real motivation beyond duty.
the escape was the best thing that could have happened, not for the Talons' plan, but for the Dragonets themselves.
Freedom let them discover who they were beyond the prophecy, and what they discovered was each other.
The group became their purpose, not ending the war, not choosing queens, each other.
And paradoxically, that made them better at the prophecy stuff, because they were fighting for something real.
For dragons they loved, not abstract ideals.
There's something else, the way they include others. Peril, Riptide, Fatespeaker, dragons who aren't part of the core five but become part of the extended group.
They're not exclusive. The bond doesn't close them off from forming